Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of the Dead Internet Podcast. The old internet is dead, but stories and tales from it are still alive and have an impact on internet culture and social media culture today. And so today, specifically, I'm going to be talking about the website missbimbo.com / the Republic of Bimboland and all the weird community controversies within the news and also just within that website community. And just like the weird politics and stuff that came from the website too. And also, warning, this episode is a part 1 of 2. So today specifically, I'm just going to be talking about the original missbimbo.com website. And then in next week's episode in part 2, I'm going to focus more on the rebooted website, Republic of Bimboland, and all the stuff that happened on that one. So stay tuned for next week if y'all are interested in that after hearing this one. Just to jump right in as to what the Miss Bimboland, overall what Miss Bimboland was, or missbimbo.com was, the website itself, Republic of Bimboland, describes itself as an online fashion game and the very first internet republic. Also, the pinkest site on the web, which I beg to differ. If you know Girls Go Games, shout out. Wikipedia describes Miss Bimboland as an online fashion game and social networking site where players style their bimbo character and level her up by accumulating a variety of points. The game is similar to other social networking games and websites from the time, but this one is very shameless. This one was not aimed at children like a lot of them were. This one was specifically it was shamelessly making fun of the creators claimed it wasn't making fun of Paris Hilton, but it was very clearly a bimbo making fun of Paris Hilton and that stereotype. And it was very shameless in the way that the website presented itself. Miss Bimbo was a very controversial site that had a lot of drama between the admins running it and between the admins in the community, as well as within just the larger world, as it has been on the news a few times, and I'll get into that in a bit. Also, I just want to preface by saying that I got a lot of my information from this website from this YouTube video by Izzy's, as well as these 2 Reddit threads by these 2 users, and also just the Miss Bimbo Wikipedia page, which had a very basic list of each event and not really the drama in the communities, but just the timeline of how the website switched, because as I'll get into, it was overall really 4 different websites, but I'll get into that later. The website was originally created in 2007 and was originally a French website called Ma Bimbo. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but Ma Bimbo was a dress-up game that was originally aimed at teen girls in France, and that grew in popularity and now has over 20 billion. Now has over 20 million, users. And that original French website is still up and can still be accessed. But that, even though it started there, Miss Bimbo and the Republic of Bimboland very much travel, and it is a separate thing from that original website that still exists today. And also, that website, I'm not really going to get into that one much. I will cover what that one was like in the beginning, because the original Miss Bimbo website was basically just an English version of that one. But there's so much that has happened to the Miss Bimbo website and Republic of Bimboland since then that we'll get into. So I won't really be covering any of the community and controversy from the original French website. In 2008, they created an English version of the game, Miss Bimbo, but it didn't really get nearly as popular as the original French game. And eventually the 2 owner companies, B-Move and Blauser Inc. split up. The company B-Move went on to create a game called Like a Fashionista, because in this split, Blauser was the one that got all of the copyright for Miss Bimbo, so they had to name it something different. I'm also not really going to be focusing on their website. It was basically sort of the same fashion doll website, but again, not really focusing on that one. That's not the one that had a lot of the controversies between the admins and the community with it. The other company, Blauser, run by 2 people, Nick and Chris, who specifically Chris will become very important later on. They kept running Miss Bimbo until about 2013, when it eventually started to decline in 2013 to 2014. And I'll get into the decline, but they kept the Miss Bimbo website running for a little bit. Miss Bimbo eventually did decline and shut down, but then was revamped into the current website, Republic of Bimbo Land, that I'll be getting into next week. But so overall, there's 4 different variations of this website. The original French website, Miss Bimbo, Like a Fashionista, and Bimbo Land, or the Republic of Bimbo Land. Okay, back to MissBimbo.com. In the original English version of Miss Bimbo, the dress-up doll game, users would have to feed their bimbo and keep her happy by dressing her up, buying her clothes, getting her plastic surgery, getting diet pills, as well as finding a rich boyfriend to leech money off of, basically. The dolls could, in the website, lose and gain weight, too, just to add on to, like, the whole diet pills and dieting and, like, eating very little and stuff. And they even had the weight presented on your doll's page. And if your doll gained too much weight, it would give you a warning that you needed to get it together. And they would have different goals, such as, like, different things where you would have to, like, oh, your bimbo is about to be a model, she needs to get to this weight, or actually now she needs to get back to her goal weight, or if she needs to get to this one. Very promoting unhealthy eating and eating disorder sort of things. If you failed to keep your bimbo happy from dieting, getting her new clothes, and plastic surgery, she would literally die. So there was initiative to keep playing, keep checking up, and keeping your bimbo happy and dressing her up with new clothes and stuff. Despite the more adult themes in the game, a lot of kids did play it. A lot. It was very popular. It started because the creators are in the UK. There were a lot of children that did play the game and didn't even recognize that it was adult themes, because it's like a lot of kids growing up had unregulated internet access and just thought it was a cute dress-up game. It was also due to the website being promoted with a very, like, sparkly pink aesthetic and had a lot of cool artwork and stuff, that it was similar to a lot of the other games at the time, like Girls Go Games or websites like that with, like, dress-up dolls, which when you're a kid, you think, oh, a new dress-up doll game. So there were a lot of children that played the game, and this did cause a lot of outrage between parents at the time, which led to the website actually being covered on the news. It started off originally on the news in the UK, but the news about this website, it was pretty worldwide. I'll insert some clips of it on the news here.
Nicolas Jacquard has created a website for young girls that is hugely successful in his native France and is now causing outrage in Britain. Nicolas, this is your bimbo.
Yeah, this is my bimbo.
It's called Miss Bimbo, and in it, players get their own female character to look after.
The goal of the game, what are the bimbos trying to do?
To be the most famous bimbo, with the more bimbo attitude.
But others describe it as frightening and dangerous.
The message is clear and simple. A girl's value is in her looks, and if you're not happy with it, then fix the way you look, and that's the only way you'll be happy.
It tells you that a balanced diet is a plate of vegetables, which is clearly nonsense, and it tells you that cereal bars make you fat. They are not messages that we should be giving to young children.
And then is the name.
How would you feel if someone called your little sister a bimbo?
I wouldn't like. No, I don't like. Of course, no one to want to be a bimbo. But it's not their life, it's a game, so why not be a bimbo on a game?
Despite some similarities in appearance, Jacquard says Miss Bimbo is not modelled on any one celebrity.
Through all this controversy, the owners Chris and Nico, specifically Nico, actually tried to argue a lot and defend the game, saying that it was actually good for kids because it taught healthy dieting plans and that eating vegetables is good, while also teaching responsibility because you're taking care and not killing your bimbo, which I think is just really funny because, yeah, you're not killing your bimbo by giving it diet pills and plastic surgery. Right. The controversies from the news actually did end up to a lot of new people joining the game, and the numbers did really skyrocket. Not anywhere near as much as the original French website, but it did, and honestly just help the website gain more players. While Miss Bimbo was just a English version of the original French website, after the split between the two companies, it really had no connection anymore with the original French website, which after the company split allowed Chris and Nico to kind of do whatever they wanted with the site, and they did. This led to a lot of controversies and drama between the community, but specifically between Chris, but also like all the admins and the players. So much arguing, which I'll get into, that happened after, because when I say they went wild with the website, they went wild, not as wild as they did with Republic of Bimbaland eventually when it came back, which I'll get into next week. But buckle in. While Nico sort of played defense for the Miss Bimbo site and tried to keep it like seemed like a place like you want to be, Chris on the other hand lived for the drama and the controversies and would just feed into it. He would often say just insane stuff on the site and was overall just very unprofessional with the way that he spoke to the users and caused just so much drama back and forth between these people. Chris would continuously make poor business decisions and also get into arguments with the users that had issues with his business decisions, and like he couldn't take any criticism from any of the users from the website. An example of one of these unpopular business decisions with the website is when they added the bodyguard update that would give your bimbo a bodyguard that would take money from your account. And you couldn't choose to have the bodyguard. You couldn't fire him. There was now just this guy bodyguarding your bimbo that would take money. You had to pay him to bodyguard your bimbo, even if you didn't want him, and there was no way to get rid of it. And the higher level you were, the more money it would take. And it would get to a point where like he would be taking more money than players could even earn in a day for like higher level people. When players asked Chris to remove this feature, or would just beg him in general to like please sell the site, he would crash the fuck out at these users, and he would tell them they needed to leave and get their head out of their ass if they didn't like how he ran the website, and would constantly tell people to shut up and give us your money and buy bimbo dollars. He was quoted specifically saying shut up and give us your money multiple times. He would on many occasions say get your head out of your ass and spend more money buying the in-game currency whenever users would complain about the system not being balanced, because people were losing their money on the game and they were losing the progress that they had worked for because of these dumb updates. Very, very professional, I know, right? It got to a point where players couldn't criticize because he would delete threads fully criticizing, like just delete other people's posts and other arguments that he saw as attacking him. As well, I would just delete people's accounts. If he didn't like someone, he would just ban them from their account. So it got to a point where a lot of users on the game had to make separate fan websites and separate fan forums just to be able to be in a space in the community where they can criticize and talk about aspects of the game without fear of getting their entire account deleted or their posts and their forums taken down. Eventually, Chris did an apology for his actions after a lot of this back and forth, where in his letter he said, "Whilst I agree that swearing at you aggressively is unacceptable, I simply don't accept that I'm not allowed to stand up to you when you are wrong or rude, which happens quite often." In the start of the letter, he does take some accountability, being like, okay, swearing at you guys isn't wrong, and I'm a human being, like I make mistakes and stuff, which, yeah, that's fair. I think that's really fair. And I think it's good for him to start to take accountability. But later on in these apologies he would make, it would very quickly turn into him playing the victim and being like, you guys are just so stupid. It's not my fault. You guys are just so stupid. and can't get your head out of your ass again. And a lot of this would turn into him just playing the victim, and all the users criticizing him are just so rude and evil and out to get him, basically. After a while, this back and forth, Chris now announced that he would be stepping out of the public eye and they would be getting a new administration. Yay! They announced that this new member of administration would be this lady named Cindy, whose account was under the name Miss Bimbo. That's how you know she's important. She's named after the website. After some time of Cindy starting to run the website and posting, it became very, very clear very soon to users that Cindy was just Chris on an alternate account talking back and forth between himself. And it also got really, really weird really fast between the two of them. While Chris pretending to be Cindy was weird enough as it already was, when he would interact and talk with himself between accounts, he would like start saying inappropriate stuff. Like they would start flirting in a just an explicit way, and users would see it, and everybody knew that this was the same guy talking back and forth to himself. And users couldn't really understand why he was spending so much time basically role-playing by himself. When Chris eventually came back to the site and decided he was stepping back into the public eye and starting to run the website again, almost immediately there was more controversies and drama. There was one drama where these fictional hackers were taking over the website, and Cindy, because mind you, he was still, even though he came back, was still running the Cindy account. Cindy made a team called the Pink Bimbos that were fighting back against these hacker bimbos that were fictional. And this led to people joining the team. A lot of people were getting a bunch of spam mail from people on the like Team Pink Bimbos that asking them like join Pink, like we need to fight against the hackers and all this stuff. And it was a lot of spam. And then users started getting in their mailbox letters from other users being like, can you please stop spamming me, like this is annoying, whenever those users hadn't been sending things. And it soon became clear that Chris was botting other people's accounts, using other people's accounts to send emails to other people, pretending like he was making this thing, trying to like hack into other people's accounts to make them seem like they're part of this thing to get more people to join it, because nobody really cared. This was like very clearly also just breaking the terms of service, and he was abusing his power and doing whatever. And so a lot of users were mad over it, obviously. That was just an example of one of the drama. There's still obviously like people criticizing him because he does stuff like that, and then him not being able to take criticism and just fighting back and calling people users stupid again. And while all of this drama was happening, the website quickly started to also deteriorate. It was very clear that it wasn't anywhere near the same as it was. A lot of the artists, there was a controversy where a lot of the artists, whenever they first split up and they did a redesign of the website, they changed the way the models look and they hired new artists. It was clear that one of the artists was like very much caught stealing art from other things, and also that artist was seen giving their boyfriend in real life, like their boyfriend's account, just special points, like abusing the system or their adminship. And it was very unfair to users because they were getting special treatment, as well as these artists were seen caught stealing artwork from some places. But again, later on, as more and more drama with Chris specifically, but just drama between all of the administration. I talk a lot about Chris, but it's like, it wasn't just him. It was just a lot of him. While there was a lot of drama back and forth between Chris and the users, as well as just drama between users, the website was clearly starting to like actually fall apart. There was less and less updates to the game, less and less clothing items being added, which was just less and less things for you to buy or bimbo to keep them happy. And it became clear that this was because a lot of the artists got fired. They didn't pay them anymore, and they got fired. Over time, as there was less and less things and the website started to work less and less, the relationship between the administration and the users got more and more strained. One thing Chris did to try to save the site as it was like more and more users were leaving as it was kind of falling apart, was he eventually, because for a long time users wanted to make it into an 18 plus site, not specifically for just like explicit like 18 plus like NSFW sort of things, but also just because like it was for mature themes. Like it had like talking about like, you know, plastic surgery and diet pills and stuff like that, that it was very clearly like adult themes that people didn't think kids should really be interacting with, because the original website got a lot of controversy for it being 13 plus at first, but at this time later on, while the website, a lot of users were leaving, it was only 16 plus, and a lot of users still had issues with that. So as a last effort to try to get users to stay, Chris announced that they were changing it to being 18 plus website. This switch to it being 18 plus, while it should have been something that users were a lot of happy about, Chris, it did turn very weird, because as soon as it was now 18 plus, a lot of NSFW forums were introduced, as well as forums where it was specifically like encouraged to post real life NSFW pictures, and this didn't stop a lot of players from wanting to leave the website. A lot of players were still leaving, especially now after this, because it just got really weird. Another last effort that Chris did to try to get players to stay was he announced, unfortunately, Cindy was stepping down from administration and would be leaving. Aww. But with Cindy leaving, they announced that they were going to be having a vote on the website to vote for a player to be the new administration, which this whole voting aspect will come back later in with the Bimbo Land website, the Republic of Bimbo Land. But I feel like it's such a like it really goes to show how like the level of professionalism that this website have, because I feel like no other website, social networking game, or just virtual world game sort of thing, because it wasn't, Miss Bimbo isn't really a virtual world, but in a lot of these like virtual world like social networking games, you wouldn't see in any other website really where the staff is like, fine, if y'all don't like how we're running it, you're gonna vote for the new person, and they would put it in control of users to vote for a new person. So while I feel like any other game this would have been a disaster, having the players vote for the new person to run the website, basically, miraculously with Miss Bimbo, it actually worked out really well at first, because the person that got voted is this user Riri, and her administration actually helped the website a lot. Like, they actually got it together and were very, very responsible and helpful with users. Unfortunately, because all good things come to an end, sort of, the Miss Bimbo website came to an end when, out of nowhere, one day Chris and Nico replaced the login thing when you first get into the website with a shock image that I won't be posting here. And they also logged Riri and all of her administration and admins out of their accounts out of nowhere, and a lot of users couldn't log in. Obviously, users were confused and upset because, hey, what's going on? And Chris and Nico tried to now blame all of this on Riri, saying she's failing the website, she caused it to shut down, like she caused this stuff happening. And then Riri and her administration came back with proof as like, hey, this isn't our fault. What are you talking about? This is not the website isn't falling apart because of me. And her team was able to provide proof that they were logged out and like logged out of their accounts now and all this stuff. They eventually got back into their accounts because like whenever they came out with all this stuff. And of course, naturally, when users were upset over this, especially after Riri came out, Chris resorted to fighting back and calling them stupid and idiots again, naturally. After this, the site quite literally fell apart. Most of the users had now left, and it was basically just like a basic login page of just text and a few broken links and images scattered about, nothing like how it once was. And this leads us now into Where are they now? Where is it now, guys? Let's see. This was basically the end of MissBimbo.com, as it officially closed on March 1st, 2015, but that's not the end of the story, because don't forget, in part 2, I'm going to be talking about how soon after that the website got relaunched into the Republic of Bimboland, where you'll just have to see, it kind of got crazier there. I think the story of MissBimbo.com and how a website could just go so wrong and like almost force out so many of its player base through just poor management is so interesting to me, because I feel like there's no way this website could be created today, and especially with like the lack of websites that we have nowadays. Obviously the websites still exist and there's still websites like this, but most of the internet nowadays, when kids log on or when teenagers log on, it's social media. It's like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, or like you're playing a PC game. And I feel like we don't have as many of these websites, and a lot of these controversies don't happen. And a website like this now, I don't think would be able to get as much traction and be able to get to a point where it could be a community like it was. And again, obviously Bimboland is still up and it still has a community, but it's not a thing people are joining. It's not a thing people know about now, and it's not something people aren't really on the internet enough nowadays to find and see and want to join. And the website and the community that exists on Republic of Bimboland is nothing compared to how it was in the late 2000s and early 2010s, and that sort of era of the internet that existed at that point. Later on this channel, I do want to talk more about other websites like this, maybe not like social networking websites, but like old virtual world games and old stuff like that, because I used to play those like it was nobody's business. I loved those games, and now they don't really exist, and the ones that do are so different because the internet's just not the same as it was. It's not something that you really go and find, because a lot of what people are doing on the internet now is so confined to just social media websites. Anyway, thank you for watching and listening to this episode. Stay tuned for next week for part 2, where I will be continuing the story of Miss Bimbo / Republic of Bimboland, and continuing on of just the crazy controversies happening between the administration and the users of the website. So I'll see you guys in part 2. Thank you for listening. Bye. See you next time.